time for the Curtis Riggs Show. The head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm. The Curtis Riggs Show on FM 98.1. AM 1230 KWSN and KWSN.com. The Curtis Riggs Show being brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute. Now, here's your host of the Curtis Riggs Show, the voice of the Sioux Falls Storm, Rich Roste.
And good afternoon and hi, everybody. I'm Rich Roste, and welcome to the Curtis Riggs Show. And during today's show, we're going to be talking with the Storm head coach about their win down in Grand Island, Nebraska last Saturday as they defeated the Danger 55-36. Then also on the Curtis Riggs Show are going to be two veteran players with the Storm, offensive lineman Forrestall Hickman and quarterback Lorenzo Brown. Then in our final segment with the coach, we'll be talking about the Bismarck Bucks, and that's who the Storm plays this Saturday. But it's a different kickoff time. It's 6:05, not 7:05. And you can hear that game on our sister station, FM 107.9, starting with our pregame show at 5:45. Again, this is Saturday, 6:05 kickoff, Storm and the Bucks up in Bismarck, North Dakota. The Curtis Riggs Show is proudly presented each week by the official Storm sports medicine providers, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls, and also by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. Coming up next is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, and you're listening to the Curtis Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN.
Ever wonder what ingredients are in Bud Light?
The Rostes wanted their new house to be unique, so they went back to Fireplace Pros. The upstairs is traditional, but the downstairs is very modern. They are delighted.
We wanted a different look and feel within our house, and Fireplace Pros, as always, helped us make it happen. They're the best.
Visit us on the web or stop by your nearest Heat and Glow or Heatlator dealer. Fireplace Pros, Heat and Glow, and Heatlator. You're going to love the way your home feels.
You're listening to the Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Roste.
And every week about this time, we have the opening interview with the Storm head coach, Curtis Riggs, and it's brought to you by the great folks over at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Storm sponsors since day one, Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Come see what fresh really is. Baked fresh, sliced fresh, delivered fresh. That's Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Number one in delivery sales for the Good Sense franchise system for the past 20 years. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. Coach, we had a trip down to Grand Island, Nebraska, got back, didn't get stuck in a snowbank. We're back here. This week we might have snow again going up to Bismarck.
Just seems like it's never ending, Rich.
It's always something, the travels of the Storm. Well, Coach, there was several games going on around the IFL during the week. Let's talk briefly about them. First of all, San Diego Strike Force was up to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the River Kings, and the River Kings victorious in that game 65-48. Anything that you know about that game or comments about that game?
I didn't see it. I expected Cedar Rapids to win. I watched San Diego play, and they look like a team that's just starting off, and they're struggling to kind of find personnel, and just trying to get their foundation built right now. And so Cedar Rapids, I think, was able to take advantage of that.
Another game that went on, Iowa Barnstormers hosted Green Bay Blizzard, and I tried to find it within the records of the IFL as far as lowest points scored in a game, but that game going into the fourth quarter was 16-3, Iowa Barnstormers. Then Iowa cranked off 25 unanswered points, winning 41-3. That really surprised me that Green Bay couldn't put up any numbers.
Yeah, and it sounded like they had some touchdowns that were called back, and then they gave up some touchdowns on turnovers there in the fourth quarter. So, I think the game was more competitive than what the score indicates. Okay,
well, that's good. But then the other game that took place on Sunday was Bismarck traveled down to Tucson, and the Tucson Sugar Skulls were victorious 62-41. Of course, Sioux Falls playing the Bucks this weekend up in Bismarck. Two new teams in the IFL, one team, a brand new team, Tucson, Tell us about that game.
Well, and brand new team, brand new uniforms, brand new field. I mean, they did a very, very good job. I mean, everything looked very professional, and they did a nice job with building their team. They got a solid, hard-working coach. He went out and found veterans to kind of build the team around, and they're 2-0 right now.
Having buys during this week, Arizona's, I'll check that. Arizona, Sioux Falls, Iowa, and Tucson are all 2-0. Quad Cities is 1-1. Green Bay, Nebraska, Cedar Rapids 1-2 in the year. Bismarck 0-2, and San Diego 0-3. And looking at the games this coming week, Quad Cities 1-1 is going to be at Cedar Rapids 1-2. Sioux Falls will be up in Bismarck on Saturday. Then the game I wanted to talk about, the Battle of the Unbeatens. And I'm kind of surprised about this. Tucson and Arizona, both undefeated. Arizona is coached by Kevin Guy, but he owns the Tucson team. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Do you think Coach Guy will give him any breaks?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the worst thing that could happen to him is Tucson beat him.
Right.
I'm definitely not surprised Tucson's 2-0. I mean, they beat San Diego and Bismarck.
Yeah.
I mean, two new teams into the league. I don't think that's a surprise at all. Now, if they beat Arizona, that would be a surprise. I think, they have good pieces, though. They do. They have two good veteran quarterbacks. They have, some nice defensive players that they brought in. I mean, they'll be competitive. I mean, there's no doubt. It's not going to be one where they'll just get blown out.
And then this weekend, the buys, that's where I had it written down. Iowa, Nebraska, San Diego, and Green Bay all have buys this weekend. But like I said earlier, Arizona, Sioux Falls, Iowa, and Tucson are all 2-0 on the year. Quad Cities 1-1, and Green Bay, Nebraska, and Cedar Rapids 1-2. And yet to win a game, Bismarck and San Diego. Well, Coach, when we come back, we'll talk about the game down in Grand Island, Nebraska, where the Storm was victorious 55-36. So hang on, we'll talk to you in just a bit. This first segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, #1 in delivery sales for the Good Sense franchise system for the past 20 years. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. We'll be back right after this.
When should you come to Sioux Falls?
When should you visit Sioux Falls Urgent Care? When that common cold is not so common. When that chicken definitely needed 2 more minutes. Or when you shouldn't have done it yourself. Sioux Falls Urgent Care specializes in medical fixes for life's glitches. We're faster than the ER at a fraction of the cost. So, when you're down from a sofa stage dive, see us. Walk-ins are welcome and most insurance is accepted. Visit Sioux Falls Urgent Care today.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Roste.
And the Storm Weekly Game Recap is brought to you by Eastway Bowl, the perfect spot for family fun, and Eastway Sports Lounge, the official Storm Road Game viewing party hosts. And the next viewing party is Saturday as the Storm travels to Bismarck, North Dakota to take on the Bucks. Remember, the kickoff is at 6:05 Saturday. Pregame show starts at 5:45 on our sister station, FM 107.9. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. Coach, we go down to Grand Island, Nebraska, get the win 55-36. We're going to be having some highlights, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about as far as this game is concerned, it was an emotional game. And sometimes the play continued after the whistle had blown and there was, some jawing back and forth and things like that. When you coach a team, how can you coach discipline so that they're not the one getting caught with the retaliation hit or the shove or something like that, or working to keep the discipline so that your head stays in the game and doesn't cost your team?
Well, we try to take exactly that approach, Rich. We try to stress that this isn't just a loss of emotion and you retaliating and you suffer a consequence. This is, you're going to make the entire team pay for your stupidity here. And then you go beyond that. You look at, hey, there are people watching you, scouts watching you. They're not going to have patience to deal with this stuff. So you have to impress everyone at every level. And we start with the team first. Don't cost your teammates, and then all the way up to your own individual goals. Don't try to get a bad image for yourself and make it a one time they see you and then never again.
When that comes in, do you feel that there's sometimes guys come in and this has been a problem in their past, or it is something that escalates just during the course of a game?
Oh, I think it's something that usually carries over. It's something they have baggage that they take with them. So, you really try to get them to buy in. And you saw, certain guys are always in the mix. And you see that on film. It's the same guys, always involved. And, it's those same guys that are always involved, though, that also always feel like they're singled out. And it's such a weird, unexplainable occurrence that they just happen to be involved in every single situation. I don't know. I can't explain it, and that's their approach, and it's pretty easy to see when you watch from afar.
Sometimes a bad situation is like a magnet, and it just draws people in if they're, at all inclined, that they just get wrapped up in it very quickly. Coach, you had a good win down there, again, 55-36. We're going to have some highlights, and here's our first one. Now to the Storm, working from the left side hash. Lorenzo Brown empties the backfield shotgun formation. Ford goes in motion left, and through the box is Miller. Miller gets the handoff, goes into the end zone, took a huge hit after he was in the end zone, but he bounced right up again. Darian Miller, 5'10", 200-pounder, out of UNI. He took lots of hits, but the guy is a tough runner, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, I think he can absorb some hits and keep going. We need him to show his toughness in other areas, pick it up a bit. But that was a late hit there, though, Rich. And great job by Darian not retaliating there. And the head of officials, as he just briefly started to review the game, right away he sent me a clip that very play saying, I cannot for the life of me understand how this was not called. And he was apologetic, like, this is inexcusable. This is exactly what we're trying to get away from, because this is the type of play that leads to worse things.
You're talking about Tom Falcinelli, Director of Officials for the IFL. Here's our next highlight. Now Bergner is going to try a 45-48, about a 51-yard field goal himself. He puts it up, got plenty of leg on this pump. It's up in the net. And Bergner connects again. Oh, my. As it turned out, that was 54-yard field goal by Bergner on the season. He's 6 of 8 field goals. He is 12 of 12 point-after touchdowns, scoring 30 points. Quite a kick he had down in Grand Island.
It was awesome. Yeah, I tried to remember a better kick than that one. We've seen ones that are further away, but he wrapped that one around the score clock and then nailed it right in the middle of the field goal post. And, that thing had a lot of distance left in it, too. It was an impressive shot.
And the thing about it is that I didn't even think about it at the time, but he did actually hook it around the scoreboard hanging down, and to be able to do that on demand from that far out, that was a tremendous effort.
Well, and I just told him, hey, just make sure you get this out the back. Okay, let's move it over, get it out of the back, and, we'll look at going into half. And I think that was somewhat his mindset, but, and then when he drilled it, you're like, man, that's got a shot. That's going in. And, I think people just take for granted how tough of a job that is and how easy he made that look.
What folks don't realize, in college, the goalposts are 18.5 feet wide. In the IFL, they're 10 feet wide, and you're hitting that from a target of 55 yards out, 54 yards in this case. That's a tremendous effort. Now, late in the first half, the score was the Storm leading 24-16. Then this happened. And back to action. It was a field goal. They changed their mind. The Storm come in and block it. It takes it all way into the end zone and rolls down. The Storm recover it, and they get a touchdown. And that was a huge turning factor in the game. And I believe, according to the stats and what we talked about, that Charles Williams got the block and recovered in the end zone by Claude Davis.
Yeah, that was a big point. Coach Johnson takes a lot of pride in the field goal block team, and I just told him today that I thought it was a really decisive point because it put us up by multiple scores, and you could just see Nebraska not handle that pressure very well of having to continually try to catch up, get stops, catch up. They have too much inexperience right now to be able to do that.
And they were in a position, they were debating whether to go for the touchdown at the end of the first half or go for the field goal. They decided originally to go for the touchdown, and that's why I said that they had changed their mind in the call, that they decided to go for the field goal, and things just backfired on them entirely. Wound up giving up the touchdown, and the Sioux Falls Storm going into halftime with that momentum. Here's our next highlight. Lorenzo Brown's going to launch it deep down the right side. Receiver there is caught, goes in the end zone, and that is Damian Ford. Holy help me, Anna. And that was just a beautiful pass and catch.
Yeah, that was a big third down, too. We were backed up there, and they were kind of getting after us a little bit, and Damian and Lorenzo were able to connect on it was about a 3rd and 9 right there. And you could see Nebraska just totally get deflated after that one.
And here's our last highlight. 45-22. Sioux Falls Storm with the lead. 14-13 to play in this contest. Here's a bounding kick. It's going to be picked up there and moved up. Field's got some room. Takes it down. And that is Thomas, but he gets the ball stripped right out of his hands, right into the hands of the Sioux Falls Storm. And that's Matt McCoy. Oh, my. And that was pretty much distanced to things in the second half, but I haven't seen that happen for quite a while, that a coverage person strips the ball out of the return man's hand for a fumble recovery, and Matt McCoy did that.
Not only strip it, but also really just take it away from him. Usually you see maybe a arm swatting down, causing a fumble, but this one, he just pulls it right out of Eric Thomas's hands, and Matt is really strong. He's picking up the indoor game very well, and he's going to be a good addition. For the game, there's some things that I thought were kind of interesting. Your Storm defense holds the opponent less than 40 points. You had a sack. You had 4 tackles for loss. Your special teams gets a touchdown. Kick return coverage, they averaged only about 11 yards a game. There was no sacks. There was no interceptions. I thought it was an overall well-played game. What was your assessment of the Storm's production and effort last Saturday night? I thought we got better from the Cedar Rapids game. I thought we played better against a better team, too. The fumble that we gave up, we got to stay away from that because that ended up giving Nebraska a touchdown. And we struggled a little bit when we were backed up. We got to be able to be solid and know, hey, we can move out of here. We don't need a home run all the time. We can just work our way out sometimes. But overall, defensively, offensively, we were definitely better.
Later on the program, we'll be talking to Lorenzo Brown. For the night, he was 13 of 18, 170 yards. 46-yarder was his long, 2 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, 11 carries, 8 yards, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns. And tell us about how Lorenzo is progressing thus far in a couple games this year for the Storm.
Well, he didn't play well the first game. I didn't hide anything about that. He didn't play well. And in this one, he did. He managed the game well. He did a nice job. He made some big plays when we needed him. He took care of the ball, and he was very consistent throwing the ball. He made the throws you should make. He made them look easy. And, Lorenzo, to his credit, when he plays bad, everybody is out after Lorenzo. No one hides when he plays bad, but it's like when he plays well, it's like crickets. You hear nothing, and I will always be the one that, when he plays well, I'll be the first one right there. He did a nice job, and we will be successful when he plays well. But when he plays poor, I'm also the first one to be there and tell him, because he knows I'm his coach, and I'm going to help him, but I'm also going to be critical of him, and he can handle that.
One of the questions I'm going to ask him later on is that how do you develop the tough skin to separate being instructed or being yelled at? It's going to be interesting to see what he has to say, because you as the head coach have to do both, don't you?
Yeah, and I'm way tougher on him. I mean, we've been together a long time, coaching him in college.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know he can take it. I can yell at Lorenzo. There's not many other players that can handle what Lorenzo takes. And that says a lot for him. But he has very high expectations of himself. And he knows when he makes a mistake, he knows it, and he knows I'm going to tell him about it, and we're going to fix it.
Coach, good stuff. Congratulations on the win down there in Grand Island, 55-36. Any other final comments about the game?
No, that's it, Rich. Thank you.
We'll talk to you after a bit about Bismarck Bucks. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, and this segment of the Coaches Show brought to you by Eastway Bowl. Perfect spot for the viewing party. It's going to be at 6:05 Saturday. That's over at Eastway Lounge. We'll be back with Forrestall Hickman on the Curtis Riggs Show, and you're listening to it right here on Sports Radio KWSN.
Your house is not...
On the average day, the Winklers are a splendid little family. But today is not your average day. It all started when little Susie went in for her first bite of cereal. Dad went to investigate, but had issues of his own along the way. That's when it became blatantly clear the furnace was broken. And it was time to call the service guys. Waterbury, we are service.
You're listening to the Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Roste.
And welcome back to the Curtis Riggs Show. And this segment brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And when we go to break, we'll take your third caller for the Storm ticket giveaway sponsored by Lewis. And we'll take the third caller, 336-1230, for the first home game. That's March 22nd, when the Storm hosts the Quad City Steamwheelers. Joining us now by the family, an offensive tackle with the Sioux Falls Storm, Forrestall Hickman. Forrestall, thanks for being on the Curtis Riggs Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, you went to college at Missouri S&T, and I'm not familiar where that school is or much about it. Could you tell us a little bit about Missouri S&T?
Its old name was Missouri Rolla. They changed to Missouri University of Science Technology, short for Missouri S&T.
Okay. Science and technology. I had no idea where that was going, and it's obvious why I didn't. But you played offensive line with the Sioux Falls Storm. Last year, you were all first team, all IFL offensive line in your first year of indoor football. Now, tell us what you've learned from last year that you're using this year that's making the game easier for you.
Just getting to know your new teammates each year makes it just so you can gel quicker and easier with them and just get everyone on the same page quicker. And when that happens, you get better real fast.
Now, when you play that offensive line, which side do you play of the center?
I play on the left side.
So you are the key blocker as far as blindsided hits on the quarterback. That's your responsibility, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Did you ever play on the right side of the ball?
I have actually never played on the right side of the ball in a game. I've practiced it, but I've never actually played in the game. Always been on the left.
When you go from one side to the other, if you would go to one side to the other, do you change your down hand?
Yeah. On the left side, if you actually put a hand down, it's going to be your outside hand. So if you're on the right, it's going to be your right. On the left, it's going to be your left.
Okay. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
I am right-handed.
Right-handed, okay. Now, when you play this game, and the thing about it, what people don't realize is when you play offensive line, you've got one guy that you tangle with all night long. Who knows more about the other by the time the game has ended, the offensive tackle or the defensive tackle?
It really goes both ways. You always start, obviously you've watched film and everything on each other beforehand, so you should know some of what each person does. But throughout the game, you're kind of feeling each other out, and you start getting into a rhythm, and hopefully in my case, it's the offensive guy figuring out the defensive guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing good in that case.
So if, when you when you watch the guys on film, how many times can you really pick out a surefire tell of what he's going to be doing as far as how he lines up, his hand pressure, all those types of things? How can you find that out? And do you find that it's pretty much consistent every time he does it?
There's definitely some players that have those. Just depends on where they're lining up, whether they line up deeper. They might change hands if they're slanting. There's a lot of different just tells, they may lean back more. It just kind of depends on the player and what team we're playing, because some guys have worked really hard to get rid of those, and some guys have changed some things and have some of those.
We're talking with Forrestall Hickman, offensive tackle with the Sioux Falls Storm. Now, you had an exciting event happen in the off-season. Tell us about that.
Yes, I got engaged, so I'll be getting married in about 6 months or so now. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, if you figure 6 months from now, then you obviously figured out you didn't want to do it during storm season.
Yes, had to make sure it wasn't during football season.
Well, I tell you what, congratulations on getting engaged, and she's from the area, is she not?
Yeah, she's from Sioux Center, Iowa.
Well, I tell you what, great community down there. I knew that area, worked in that area for over 25 years, and great folks down at Sioux Center. Now, when you're not playing football, what do you have a work? Do you have a career? What are the things that you like to do away from football?
When I'm back home, I usually sub in some of the free time and everything while I'm doing football stuff. I also go up and obviously see my fiance and spend time with her in between, and just hang out with friends. And
so you're a teacher then? That you do substitute teaching? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Back in Kansas when I'm back there. Yep.
Oh, of Kansas. Okay. What part of Kansas do you live?
Back in my hometown during the off season usually, but once I'm married, I'll be living in Sioux Center, Iowa. So.
Okay. Well, you're going to have an education. They'll take good care of you, training you to become a Sioux County person.
Yep, it should be good.
Well, Forrestall, what do you, when you think about the time now with the Sioux Falls Storm, you talked about getting to know the new players and things like that. You're looked as a veteran right now. What is your role to make the new guys feel welcome?
Just talking with them, and if they have any questions, answering them, just working with them to help make the team better, and all of us keep learning and hopefully leading to a championship.
Now, one final question I have for you. As an offensive lineman, have you ever held a defensive lineman?
Not that I can remember. Some refs might say I did, but I don't really think so.
Okay, fantastic answer. Very good. Forrestall Hickman, thanks for being on the Curtis Riggs Show.
Thank you for having me again.
Forrestall Hickman, 6'7", 330-pounder out of Missouri, S&T, Science and Technology. Coming up next, we'll be talking to Storm quarterback Lorenzo Brown. And after we go to break, we'll take your third call, 336-1234. Free tickets for the game coming up on March 22nd against the Quad City Steamwheelers, courtesy of Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. We'll be back right after this.
Hey guys, Bellator lightweight champion Michael Chandler here. I'm here at one of my favorite places in the entire world, the wrestling room. But if there's one thing we know about wrestling rooms, they can get extremely dirty. We're talking skin infections, we're talking about funk, we're talking about smelly armpits, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. So, my friends at Pure and Clean Sports came up with an awesome solution. Spray it right on your skin, wipe it off, smells great, keeps you clean from the time you leave the mats to the time you can get home and shower. Not only is it the greatest skin defense in the entire world, it's the safest. Check them out, pureandcleansports.com.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Roste.
And this segment brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And after we go to break, we'll take your third caller, 336-1234. Free tickets for that game on March 22nd, courtesy of Lewis Pharmacies. He is the quarterback with the Sioux Falls Storm, Lorenzo Brown. Thanks for being on the Curtis Riggs Show.
How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing great. I have some different questions for you this time. We're going to go right into it. One of the first questions I was going to ask you, Coach and I talked about it a little bit earlier in the broadcast, but for you as the quarterback and the relationship that you have with Coach Riggs, how do you develop the tough skin that you need to separate from being instructed to being yelled at?
That's a good question. I think I'm still learning.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think I take that as it's out of respect, honestly. I've always taught, even since I was younger, if a coach ain't going to get on you, then he don't really care about you. And I know that I've been with Coach Riggs since, 2008. 2008, when I came to Sioux Falls and he was coaching me in college. And I know what type of player I am, what I expect out of myself, and he expects the same thing. I know I drive him nuts at times, and sometimes he can drive me nuts too. But it's out of mutual respect for one another. I know that he's the best in the game, and I'm just trying to be the best in the game for myself too. He's a great person, a great coach, and somebody that I can learn a lot from, and I have learned a lot from over these years. So
you both are on the same page. You're both competitive. You both want the same thing. It's just a matter of working together to get it done, and you guys have done it very successfully for a long time.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. I mean, we still love competing, and we're just trying to keep things going around here and get those championships that we work hard for.
Talking with Lorenzo Brown on the Curtis Riggs Show. What's harder for you to do, taking a sack or throwing the ball away?
I don't really like throwing the ball away.
I thought that might be the answer.
And he gets on me at that. But I think over the years I've learned to, eat the sack. Sometimes what we call it, eat the ball and take the sack or throw it away. But I don't like wasting plays. But sometimes you have to. You got to live to fight another down. And sometimes it comes down to that.
Here's another question, a little bit different. If a receiver comes into the huddle and says to you, "I'm open every play," do you believe him and throw to them in the next play, ignore them, or run the play that Coach Riggs called?
It depends. I mean, they're always going to say that. I mean, they're always going to say they're open because in their minds they are open. They think they're open, which is good or it could be bad. But we go back in the sideline. I'll watch the film on the iPad and see if he was open, and if he was, we'll come back to it and we'll adjust for that. But I hear it all the time. I mean, and that's receivers. They're divas. So, they go a couple plays as soon as they're out catching the ball, they get frustrated and want the ball. And it's just the competitive nature that comes out of them. But, I don't think a receiver is ever going to say that they're not open. So, we got to just, take it in stride and we'll see the tape back it up and see if they really were or not.
There's two lies in football. I'm open on every play, and I was a lineman. I've never held a defensive lineman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
So what's more satisfying for you, completing a long pass or finding the right read?
I think it kind of contributes, it goes hand in hand. Finding the right read could lead to those big plays. But I honestly say that, why I keep on playing is just the thrill that I get from that touchdown pass, that touchdown run, just the feelings you get playing this game that we love to play and doing it at a still high level is what keeps me coming back, keeps me playing. It's just a drug that I'm hooked on, and I just love competing and love playing the game.
Now, you're a longtime veteran, been around this league for a long time. How has the game changed for you over the course of the time that you've been playing it?
I think it's gotten better. The league in general, talent-wise, has gotten better. From my rookie year, 2010 to 2019. I think it's a lot more talent, and defenses are evolving and putting the right players in the right spots, and just making it harder. Not hard, really more challenging, I should say.
Yeah, right.
Which is good. Nobody likes to see the 80 to 10 blowouts that we used to have back in the day. It's good for the fans. It's good for us players. Keeps us more focused, more engaged on a week in, week out basis. And you got to bring it every week. There's really no slouches in this league like it used to be. And honestly, back in the day, we used to have a saying that the practices were harder than the games.
Uh-huh.
The games would feel like a practice. That's what it was. And it contributed. It's just good to see where the league's going, and a lot of guys, coming in and helping to that. So it's good though.
One final question for you, Lorenzo, before I let you go.
Mm-hmm.
During the course of a game, there's a lot of nonverbal communication between you and the wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
How long does that take you to develop, being that you have new wide receivers this year?
We're still getting there. It could be a head nod or an eye look or a hand signal or something that we may do or see, and it's just going to keep on. It's going to come. I've had veteran guys that I've worked with for years, and now with the new guys coming in, it's just we're going to get on the same page, and when we see something, we can change it right on the fly, right pre-snap or something like that. A head nod or a wink or whatever the case is to a certain route, and we're going to get there. I mean, I got the group of guys that I got are very, very smart. They're talented, and another thing, they're eager to learn. And that's all you can ask for, especially getting a whole group together. A collective group like that, because you got to be on the same page. Because I'm only as good as they make me, and if they go in the right spots and we're on the same page, get the ball in their hands, and you're going to see a lot of special things this year. So we're on the up and up. It's going to get better. It's only week 2, but we got a whole long season to go, and I'm excited for what's to come still.
Well, Lorenzo Brown, it's fun watching you play football, and it's great to be your friend.
I appreciate you, Rich. Anytime, you know that.
Absolutely. Lorenzo Brown, thanks for being on the Curtis Riggs Show.
Thanks.
And when we go to break, we'll take your third caller at 336-1230 for free tickets for the game on the 22nd, courtesy of Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. We'll be back right after this.
Are you finding it impossible to focus in your home office?
First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking gives you the freedom to experience life, to enjoy the things you love, and to breeze through checkout lines with free mobile wallet features. Bank anywhere you want with online account opening and instant issue debit cards. Feel the freedom of no fees, no minimum balances, and no unpleasant surprises. First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking. Apply online or at any branch location. First Premier Bank, member FDIC.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Roste.
And welcome back to The Curtis Riggs Show, and this segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, 917 South Cliff Avenue, working to further enhance deliveries in Sioux Falls by supplementing their delivery staff with a third-party delivery company so you get your subs baked fresh, sliced fresh, and delivered fresh. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, man, that's good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. Coach, in Bismarck, Bucks are coming up on Saturday. I know you have a lot of work to do getting prepared for this game. I have an equal task preparing for this game because of one player, and I'm going to tell you his name if I can. His name is Ryan, and that's what I might be calling him during the course of the game, but his last name is Naki Pumia Elia Lani.
Yeah. Yeah, as I started doing my scouting report, I just put him as Brian Naki Poo. I figured, one, I couldn't fit his name on my scouting report, and two, I just figured the guys would remember that way.
That's exactly right. I think that's probably a good one. If I wouldn't get calls from them up there, I would probably do the same thing. Coach, the Bismarck Bucks are 0-3. They're a team that was in the CIF last year. They've lost to Nebraska 66-44. They lost to Tucson 62-41. They've had two different quarterbacks in the two games that they played. Tell us about the Bucks from your angle.
Well, I think the second quarterback is definitely the better of the two. I think he can buy more time. He's pretty good at scrambling, and he's actually a better passer when he scrambles and gets out of the pocket. And I think with their offensive line right now, that's what they need, is a guy that can extend the play a little bit, get him a little more time, and can create with his legs.
He is 11 of 18 in that game. He had 130 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's also the leading ball carrier as far as the Bismarck Bucks are concerned. And they had 5 receivers that have caught passes, one of which the Sioux Falls Storm knows quite well. Mike Tatum is a part of the Bismarck Bucks this year.
He is, yep. Yeah, he was, as he was out on the free agent market, it was Bismarck was the one team that came to him and got him to come up there and play. And there's one thing that you cannot question ever with Mike, and that is his speed. I mean, he is maybe one of the fastest people that I've ever coached or competed against. I mean, he will never even work out, step on the field, and still be the fastest guy out there. I mean, he has such God-given ability in that regard that I don't know if we'll ever see anyone like it. And he has a wealth of indoor experience.
Is it true you now get
he has played for a long time and knows the game very well, and is definitely their go-to guy.
For the year, 11 receptions, 154 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. Defensively, they've given up 60-some points in 2 ball games. Tell us about the defense of the Bismarck Bucks.
Well, you know, against Tucson, they had a tough first half. Tucson looked really good against them offensively. And then second half, though, they came out and they played better football. I think they have a lot of inexperienced guys from small schools, and they're trying to figure out the game right now. They're trying to figure out the ins and outs of indoor football.
Coach, give us your feelings about what you want to emphasize with your team going up to Bismarck this weekend.
Well, we want to get better. I mean, we want to get better from, you know, the Cedar game. I feel like we got better, and then to the Nebraska game now. From that game, what can we do to improve? And I think one area we still need to get better at is in the trenches, offensive and defensive lines. We've got to be able to show that we can, you know, put our dominance out on the field and get after teams, and let our running back, who's really good, let him be able to showcase that he's very talented, and we haven't been able to do that yet.
Coach, what time do we leave on Friday?
We're leaving at 2:23, Rich. This is a John here. We got to leave just a little bit earlier here, but we'll be able to go to Fargo and then drive across and see beautiful North Dakota. Jared Fredenberg, the head coach at Lincoln, has been telling me for so long everything I've been missing with this state, so I can't wait to see all the scenic landscape.
I won't even go there. Coach, we'll be looking forward to it, and we'll see you on the bus on Friday.
All right, thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. And this segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, 917 South Cliff Avenue. And they have baked fresh, sliced fresh, and delivered fresh because they've been working to enhance their deliveries in the Sioux Falls area by supplementing their delivery staff with a third-party delivery person. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, man, that's good. Coming up, we'll have final wrap-up of the Curtis Riggs Show. We'll be back right after this. This is 98.1, 1230 AM Sports Radio, KWSN.
Ever wonder what ingredients are in Bud Light? Just check the packaging. We brew it.
If you like to bowl, roll on into Eastway Bowl. Hey, wait a minute. Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full of fun entertainment center. There's many things to do. Games, and more games. Plus food, great food. Come into our full-service sports bar and grill where you'll find terrific drinks with our popular late-night specials. Watch all your favorite sporting events at Eastway. Visit our website to make your bowling reservation and find out more about the full fun experience. Eastway Bowl and Entertainment Center, where there's something for everyone.
Your body is a complex arrangement of bone and tissue that requires only the best to maintain it. At Orthopedic Institute, that's our specialty. Our services have been specifically tailored to provide the best orthopedic care in the region. Orthopedics is what we do. That's why Orthopedic Institute is the one to trust to keep your body in motion.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Roste.
And this has been The Curtis Riggs Show, proudly presented each week by the official Storm Sports Medicine provider, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls, and also by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. And after we go off the air, we'll take your third caller at 336-1230 for 4 free tickets for that first home game on March 22nd against the Quad City Steamrollers. This week, the Storm travels up to Bismarck, North Dakota, to take on the Bucks, and you can hear the game on our sister station, FM 107.9. Kickoff is at 6:05, and our pregame show starts at 5:45. That is, again, this coming Saturday. I want to thank you to our head coach, Curtis Riggs. Always great comments on his part. Also for our guests, Forrestal Hickman and Lorenzo Brown. And then I want to thank John Michaels, our KWSN studio producer and engineer, making the Curtis Riggs Show run so smoothly. I want to wish all of you a great evening, and I'll be talking to you again next week starting at 6 o'clock right here on KWSN. Just a reminder of games coming up. Storm traveling up to Bismarck on the 16th, and then March 22nd, the first home game, the Quad City Steamwheelers come to Sioux Falls. Then March 31st, a big game going to be out in Arizona, Rattlers, and then on April 6th, back up to Bismarck to take on the Bucks, and then starting in the next game, all games will be on KWSN. But for right now, FM 107.9. Thanks for listening to the Curtis Riggs Show. Have a great evening. And this has been a presentation on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Good night, everybody.
Sioux Falls.